Hi everybody, this is Julian from Arcee. In this video, I'm extremely happy to introduce a new Arcee service called Arcee Conductor. Conductor is a new inference platform that automatically sends your prompt to the best and most cost-efficient model, picking that model from a list of Arcee small language models, as well as closed LLMs from other providers. The end result? Well, you're going to get the best and fastest and cheapest model available, delivering huge savings in terms of latency and cost. First, I'm going to show you Conductor in the user interface, showing you the list of models. Then I'm going to show you how you can easily compare models available in Conductor, seeing their latency, their relevance, and their price. And last but not least, I will show you how you can use Conductor programmatically with the OpenAI compatible API. Let's get started. At the time of recording, Conductor is not out yet. We're going to launch in about a week. You can get early access by filling this simple form. Of course, I will put the link in the description. So now let me switch to Conductor and show you the list of available models. Here is the Conductor UI. So first, let's take a look at the list of available models. Of course, by default, we'll leave the model to automatic, which will point to our router model. But under the hood, all these models are available. So here you see the models that are already available in the model engine, which is our inference platform. If you're new to model engine, again, I'll put the link to my video in the description, but we have coding models, function calling models, general purpose language models coming in different sizes, etc., etc. And these obviously are extremely cost efficient because they are small models, and yet they have extremely good performance, and I've talked about those models many times already. We also have the ability to use external models like Claude or DeepSeek or Gemini or some of the OpenAI models. And these have, stronger abilities in some cases for advanced reasoning or, really complex questions, but they're also much more expensive. And that's the whole story. You don't want to use those very fancy and expensive models for 100% of your prompts. Of course, they would do a good job, but they would be way too expensive for your own good. And I'll show you a few examples. So that's where Conductor comes into play. It's going to solve the problem of picking the right model for the job every single time. Unfortunately, some customers work with those closed LLMs because they do have some complex prompts, but maybe that's just a fraction of the prompts they have to deal with. And they just waste a ton of money on everything else, right? So simpler prompts, simpler questions will go to the more cost-effective models, and only the most complex and most advanced prompts will go to one of the fancier LLMs. Okay, so we'll see that. So now you don't have to compromise. Some people use smaller models because they are very cost sensitive, but maybe they don't get the best answer possible. And some people just use the larger models all the time, probably paying way too much overall. Before we run some live examples, let's compare the output for some of those models. So here, my question is, explain logit-based distillation versus hidden state distillation. Okay, so technical question, not a lot of detail, not a lot of context. So model A, so to speak, is Virtuoso Small. Model B is ChatGPT 4o. Okay? So first, let's look at the answers. Okay, and I leave them on screen so that you have time to read them. And we can see, the answers are pretty similar. Obviously, each model will explain first what logit-based distillation is. Okay, so we can see ChatGPT is maybe a little more structured. But if you read the explanation here, it's actually more of a narrative explanation. So maybe that's the one you prefer. And then we have hidden state, distillation. Okay. And then we have a bit of a comparison in the end. Okay, so here we have this table, which is nice. And let's get to the end. So we can see Virtuoso Small generated the answer in 5.2 seconds. ChatGPT did about 13 seconds. Okay, the output was a little bit longer for ChatGPT. And looking at cost, we can see there is a huge difference. So I did the math, and ChatGPT here is 188 times more expensive. Okay, so now my question to you is, I think we'll agree the ChatGPT answer here it looks a little better, okay? But would you pay 188 times more for that answer compared to this one? So I won't answer that for you. I know I wouldn't, okay? And that's the whole thing. That's the whole story here. If you are working with a single model, okay, so either you are optimizing strictly on cost and working with a small model, and maybe sometimes you're not getting the really great answers you should get, or you are working with one of those fancier and more expensive closed LLMs, but as you can see here, you may be paying 100 times more on some queries, and maybe up to 200 times more, as we see here. So at the end of the month, if you have hundreds or maybe thousands of users, imagine the difference, right? Imagine the difference in dollar amount. Imagine how much money you literally overspent, and some would say wasted on those larger models. And that's precisely what Conductor is going to solve for you, because of course you don't want to figure that out on a prompt basis yourself, right? Conductor will do that automatically for you. Okay, let's look at a second example. Here's another example. So this time I'm asking, write a short welcome message for a new user of Model Engine, Arcee AI's inference platform. Okay, and on the left, I'm sending this to Conductor. On the right, I'm sending this to GPT-4o once again. Okay, so we can look at the answers. And we see on the left, again, we have a more, narrative answer. On the right, we have, I guess, a shorter answer. Still looks good. I mean, let's say they're equivalent, right? If you disagree, disagree in the comments. Okay, so Conductor here automatically selected Virtuoso Medium, okay, which is our medium-sized model, 32 billion parameters. Response time 184 seconds, cost super tiny, and we're getting, which is something I really love, the reasoning between that selection. So given the task moderate complexity, a general test generation requirement, and the computing domain, Virtuoso Medium is an appropriate choice, etc., etc. Okay, so you can see and understand a little bit how Conductor works. Okay, what is the task, what is the domain, what is the complexity. And if we look at ChatGPT was actually a little faster. Okay, why not? Maybe our Virtuoso Medium instance was busy. It did give us a shorter answer, which maybe or may not be what you want. And the cost is this, and if you do the math, you can see that Virtuoso Medium is 18 times cheaper. Okay, so once again, we can see, why would we pay 18 times more for the answer on the right, which, by all accounts is, let's say, equivalent to the answer on the left. Okay, and again, this is the problem that Conductor is solving. Okay, so now let's run a couple of live examples. So let's try this prompt. Explain the pros and cons of CPU inference and GPU inference for small language models. Okay, so we get our answer here. Nicely structured, pros, cons. Looks very good to me. Very detailed summary. What did we use here? We used Virtuoso Large. Okay, and again, we see the rationale. And even though this is one of our larger models, 72 billion parameters, the cost is still very effective and certainly more cost efficient than any of those larger models. Okay, so that's really the key value proposition for Conductor. Selecting the right model for the job, saving you from that compromise of optimizing for cost or optimizing for maximum abilities, whatever they are. Here, this decision is made automatically on a prompt per prompt basis. Okay, so now let's run some programmatic examples with the OpenAI API and some different prompts. As usual, when we work with the model engine, we can reuse the OpenAI client. So we just have to send the endpoint to models.rc.ai. Make sure we have an API key, which you get when you sign up to the service. And this time, of course, we're going to set the model to auto. Okay. And if I wanted to change this to Virtuoso Large, I'd just do it like that. Okay, and then all my prompts would go to that particular model. But here, of course, I want to use Conductor. So my model is the automatic model picked by Conductor. So let's just create the client. And now we can just run our prompts exactly the same. Okay, so this is one we ran before. Write a short welcome message. And I have a small utility function that prints the streaming response and the number of tokens and the model that was picked. Okay, this is actually part of the answer. Okay, so this is quite simple. Let's try maybe a slightly more complicated one. Explain what put and call options are and when they are used. Show a simple example for both. Okay, so let's run this. Let's see what model is picked this time. Okay, so this time we did pick Virtuoso Large, slightly bigger model, because I guess the question is just a little more complex. We're asking for deeper explanation, some examples, so complexity goes up. Right, let's try another one. Explain the difference between logic-based distillation and hinted state distillation. Show an example for both with PyTorch code, with BERT Large as the teacher model and BERT-based as the student model. Okay, now we're talking. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so now apparently we are using something else, okay, because we see the model thinking, even though I'm not super comfortable with the term. So we see the internal discussion that the model is having with itself, which is very interesting. So this is not going to be one of the virtuosos. I think I know which one this is going to be. Okay, so now it's getting into the code example. And wondering how the code works. I love it. Okay. So that's the thing, right? Those models are great, but sometimes, for simple questions, they completely overthink. And they take way too long to answer a rather simple question. And obviously, they're too expensive. Okay, so now It's probably getting to, wow, it is a chatty model. It is still thinking. Okay, projection layers, all right. Okay, now we're getting to the actual answer. Okay, so it figured it out, and it's generating the code, and this looks like okay code to me. Looks like what I've used before. So very detailed answer. You could probably run this out of the box, and then we get a summary. Okay, so we generated over 8K tokens, and this one was DeepSeek R1. Okay, so you see the trade-off here, right? This is a complex question. It's involving language and code and reasoning and, I guess problem solving, etc., etc. So DeepSeek R1 does a good job here. But it is a very long answer. We didn't time it. You could see it in the video, but it was, it was probably way more than 30 seconds, and the cost would be a little bit higher. Okay, but that's fine, right? Use the bigger, more expensive models when they're really needed, and use the small, cost-efficient model for everything else, right? That's really what Conductor is all about. Okay, now let's try a code generation example. Write a Python function that prints a streaming response from an OpenAI API call. Okay, so make the streaming API call, then iterate over chunks, explanation. Okay, and this time we use ChatGPT. Why not? Okay, let's do some writing now. So let's do some writing now. So here I'm loading Alice in Wonderland, the full text, and I'm asking the model, write a psychological profile of the main characters of this book. Support your analysis with direct relevant quotes from the text. Okay, let's give that a shot. And that's 26,000 words. This could take a while. And, well, we're back into reasoning land. So that's probably DeepSeek here. So after some thinking, we can see the model is answering the question, writing the profiles for the main characters, quoting from the different chapters, which I suspect is a very important thing. Not all the models can quote. So apparently DeepSeek can do that. Okay, the White Rabbit, it's the cat, Queen of Hearts, Mad Hatter. Okay, so that's DeepSeek. And this took, let's look at the time, took 49 seconds. Okay. All right, well, we could go on forever, but I think you get the idea. So that's the purpose of Conductor, picking the right model for the job in terms of quality and, of course, cost efficiency, so that you don't have to make that decision yourself, and you don't have to compromise for, again, cost efficiency or quality. You can get the best of both worlds. So that's what I wanted to tell you today. I think this is a super exciting service. It solves a lot of problems that customers have been facing for a long time. So again, please go to our webpage, sign up to get early access, start testing Conductor, and let us know what you like and what you don't like. We're happy to take your feedback. That's it for today. And my friends, thanks for watching. Until next time, keep rocking.